How's it going, everybody? Today's video is going to be about Dark Dimension 7 traps, because the race to finish Dark Dimension 7 has already been completed. In fact, the timed run is already done, and you might go in here, you might look at some of the characters these guys brought, and you might try and emulate that. I think that is a huge misstep. We'll talk about all the reasons why in this video. If you do like this video, please make sure you leave it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to give you some character suggestions that I'm actually thinking about bringing in myself for the early sections. Let's get into it. So let's start just by talking about the obvious. So the race is over. Beta Ray Bill did finish, and in fact, he already beat his timed run with 5 hours and 42 minutes. So the first thing a lot of people are going to do is they're going to come in here and they're going to look at the teams these guys brought in and try and emulate that. And that is a huge, huge, huge mistake. Now, this first section might be the exemption to that because there's going to be a couple no-brainers that I think you want to bring in here. And I did hear and I did watch some of this Dark Dimension footage. I do think bringing Skrull, Apocalypse, and Black Knight, irregardless that they are not in the next section after this, is going to be important simply to get through the nodes. You can't bring in a bad city team and then just not beat the nodes. It doesn't get you anywhere. And having these better players, these better characters ready for your Cosmic Crucible and your war needs is so much more important. Because a big theme to what I'm going to suggest and talk about in this video is that racing through Dark Dimension makes no sense unless you have every single section built up and you're able to enter. If you're going to beat a section and then sit there for months on end staring at the next section, not able to enter, then you wasted your resources bringing in characters that are good in Dark Dimension, but maybe aren't as good outside Dark Dimension. Now, I am going to critique some of the characters that were brought in here, but it's not to critique the players that did it. The players that did this were able to get through the sections faster because they had the resources. They didn't have to wait months on end to enter the next section. Also, a lot of them, they just have more resources. So if they, say, build up their Quicksilver, who definitely does not make my list for Dark Dimension 7, they're going to use that character elsewhere. But also, they're not going to have 25 Crimson characters by the time they get their Mephisto. They might have 30. They might have 35. They might have 40. It's a different world. It's just something you got to accept. These guys, thank you so much for supporting the game in the way you do. It allows us to play it, whether it be free to play or cheap to play, whatever the case may be. So let's not beat up on them for no reason. And please take my critiques just as a way for me to communicate with the general audience. All right. With that said, I think the general team that a lot of people are going to bring in is going to be Skrull, Black Knight, Apocalypse, +2, like a Robbie Reyes, like a Vol. Try and spread out those origin resources to get the first section started. Then, once we reach the city, this is where we're going to have a huge branch off from what some of these guys brought in. So we see characters like Kingpin, Big Time Spider-Man, Mr. Negative, Vulture, Firestar, Hardlight. I think a lot of these characters are not going to be the type that you bring in. I see some characters that I actually really like here. I see Noir, I see Robbie Reyes, I see Ghost Spider, who I definitely looked at as well. I see a lot of great characters, but you want to be careful that you don't build to just crush City Section. I'm looking at what Pumpkin Man did. He definitely one-shot this. I love the Turn Meter Rewind. Big Time Spider-Man's a good plug-and-play character. Robbie Reyes is obviously clearing the damage here. But I look at the other end of this, and then I'm like, what did I gain from this on my account? The Underworld team, they're really good in War. They don't really care in Crucible, so there's not enough game modes being hit there for me to want to bring those characters. Big Time Spider-Man, kind of a bust in War still. A decent plug-and-play character in Crucible, but he's not carrying any team, so dumping all those resources into him, even though he's cheaper on the Gear Tier 19 front, isn't something that interests me. And Vulture, honestly, Vulture used to just be one of the best characters in the game. He had a very short time in there. He's still very good, but I don't think he needs those kind of bumps in order to win you Crucible matches or to win you War matches. These are the characters that I'm thinking about bringing. So I got Noir on here. The new skill raid team, he's going to be a huge source of damage for that. He definitely has some Crucible plug-and-play use. There's going to be a sneaky use for him this season, 100,000%. And in War as well, there's going to be some good use for him now that he's got those reworks and he's got kind of that mini Skrull ability where he's getting speed bar. Robbie Reyes. Robbie Reyes, first of all, he's going to be great in Dark Dimension, but I don't care about how good they are in the nodes. Because I'll get through the nodes, I'll suffer through them however many hits they need to take, so long as they can actually beat the nodes. Robbie Reyes on defense in War and in Crucible is a madman, and he is going to outlive the Secret Defenders team by a long shot. Now, this is a new character that I think people should start looking at, and that is Spider-Man Puvitra. So at 128 speed and speed up on spawn, he's going to be a very interesting plug-and-play character. Like Iron Patriot, he's putting vulnerables out on the enemy team regardless of who's with him, so that's really, really powerful. And then, because he goes first, he's going to put slows out, and if you have him as a striker, he's going to give speed up to somebody. So in War and Crucible, he is going to be a defensive nightmare, because he's going to throw a wrench into what most people are expecting when they go into certain counters. So I'm excited to see how he plays out. I think he's going to be necessary in that skill team with the jacked up focus to have a little bit extra oomph to him. So I think he's going to be a great Dark Dimension character. Then we got Kraven and Lizard. These characters, they just kind of fit a good mold when it comes to origin gear priority, as well as just being amazing in both War and Crucible. I love these two characters. I don't think I need to build on that much more. All right, so let's go back in game and let's talk about the global section next. And the global section, I think we see kind of two different ideas here. We see Black Knight, obvious. He's in everyone's first section. He's going to be in everyone's global section. Makes sense. Then we see Cabal members and we see Extreme members. I think the Extreme members are probably way better. I think the Cabal members, and I've heard this, they struggle if they can't snowball fast enough, and then they have these long cooldowns. That's fine. For me personally, I'm going to err on the side of the Cabal team here. And the reason why is, although the Extreme team is really good, they're doing what they need to do in raids, and because they're a defensive team, I value the offensive pressure the Cabal team does more. And once again, I don't care if using the Cabal members means I'm going to have to suffer through hitting the nodes 10 or 15 times. No matter what, I'm still going to be staring at the Cosmic section for a month, waiting to get in. So for me personally, Cabal is going to take priority over the Extreme, but that does not mean all the Extreme members. Nightcrawler is going to be on my list for sure. In the defensive landscape of War and Crucible, there's one character absent what the old Stage 1 was in the last season who can absolutely just wipe your team or rob you of efficiency in Crucible, and that's going to be Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler for me is definitely going to come, and that 5th slot I'm leaving empty right now. But if we scroll down, I already do have a candidate. Might surprise you, but it's going to be Gambit. Gambit is my next candidate for that 5th spot, but I leave it open because... let me take him down, sorry. I leave it open because we do know that Deadpool is going to be getting a new team, and the legendary character is going to be on that. We also know Pandapool is coming. I assume Pandapool is going to be a global character. Because he was voted in like Void Knight was voted in, I'm excited to see what his kit is going to be. He might be a crazy, overpowered, brokenly good character, and then I'll want to bring Pandapool in. Because once again, me and you, we are mere mortals, and we do not need to start equipping gear. Do not equip any preliminary Crimson gear to any character unless you are entering that section that day. Equip the teal gear, sure. You're going to use those characters later. That's fine. Do not equip Crimson gear on characters that might get replaced with a new addition like a Pandapool, all right? Just don't do that. So that's going to be my global team. That's my global recommendations if you're looking for these early recommendations, which I don't think is very wise for the most part. It's just a nice conversation to have. For the Cosmic section, so we got the Eternals, 2 Eternals. Okay, right away, I understand why these guys brought Eternals. Literally, all of them brought Eternals. I get it. The Eternals have Dark Dimension tags. They're really good. They're great in War. They're great in Crucible. I don't think for the majority of players that's going to make much sense. Void Knight, Kang, and Vol, I think, are the 3 biggest no-brainers for any given section. So I completely agree with those choices. And you'll notice I have something similar going on right now, but I do not have the Eternals lined up here. Instead, I got Deathpool. And she's kind of just a placeholder. Like the global section, I'm not prepared to commit to any Cosmic character besides Kang, Vol, and Void Knight. I think we're going to have many more teams come out by the time you or I reach the Cosmic section, and those characters hopefully are going to have some great options for me. If I were to bring the Eternals, I wouldn't bring both. I would just bring Icarus because, once again, I don't value getting through Dark Dimension quickly. These guys were racing. It makes sense for what they did. I value having a badass group of characters on the other side for War and Crucible and Arena and Scourges that are going to help me dominate in those game modes that I don't do once or twice in the life of the game and then never look at again. So I definitely would not bring both Eternals. Deathpool, to me, it seems like she's probably a really good candidate. They've proved that they want to keep these Scope the original characters up to date. Kestrel already got her rework. Deathpool actually got a rework with New Warriors. She's tied to Deadpool, so maybe she'll get another look. But if not, I assume in a few months from now, or maybe a year from now, Deathpool will be back in some sort of team, in some sort of way. She does have those raid callouts, so maybe, just maybe, if the Bifrost team gets ripped out of the raid meta, maybe they'll just put another Deathpool in there, maybe with 2 new Warriors, or whatever the heck the Cloak and Dagger team is called. We might see something like that eventually down the line. But I'm not prepared to commit anything to the Cosmic Section besides Kang, Aval, and Void Knight. That'll lead us to the Legendary Section. The Legendary Section, I think, is the most important section for you to not pre-build, okay? Do not pre-build. Bitter Bill brought Doc Ock here with Green Goblin. I understand that they have great synergy there. I would caution against bringing Doc Ock. Like, never bring Doc Ock. For the everyday player, again, not for Bitter Bill, makes sense for him. For the everyday player, Doc Ock costing 90 tech pieces, don't do it. Don't start pre-equipping Crimson Gear to Doc Ock. That's not a good idea. Green Goblin, Black Cat, I 100%. I got those two characters as a lock-in as well. Red Hulk, I really do like Red Hulk. I really do like Nova. But I think that those characters are probably going to be replaced by the time that we are entering into the Legendary Section. And then Phase Fury brought in Morgan Le Fay. I think Morgan Le Fay, like Red Hulk, like Nova, probably doesn't get the nod, but I really do like that Face brought in Rogue. And that's going to lead me to my Legendary Section, where I have Green Goblin, Black Cat, and Rogue. Rogue is slotting in with the Extreme team, both in War and Crucible, which gives her so much value. She's a stat machine. You definitely want her big enough to crush people and to survive so that she can crush people. So those three are kind of my lock. Red Hulk is here in the same capacity that Deathpool is here. I kind of expect Red Hulk not to make the cut. I expect whatever the next legendary character, I'm assuming it's going to be Old Man Logan, based on the splash art from the Professor X. I assume Old Man Logan is going to go here, but also that by the time I reach the Legendary Section, another new legendary character is going to come out, and I'm going to want them. They've had a very clear track record of the legendary characters just being freaking awesome. Even Nova, who's on a trash team, as a plug-and-play option, is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So I assume that these three options are going to come, but that Red Hulk's not going to come. It's going to be two new legendary characters, but once again, these guys who already beat Dark Dimension 7, they can only use the tools that are at their disposal, so I do believe it makes sense the characters they brought. And then finally, the Mythic Section. I think that this completely makes sense. I do notice a little bit of discrepancy that Beta Rebuild brought in Dorm and Fates brought in Doom. I do agree with the Doom decision over Dorm, and then of course your Emery Mephisto on the second run. I think the three no-brainers, Apocalypse, Skrull, and Kestrel, 1000% makes sense. That fourth character up in question, whether it be Dorm or Doom, I lean towards bringing Doom. And the reason for that is, since we got the Apocalypse sagas, it hasn't mattered how big you build your Dorm. The things that counter him are buff flips and his squishiness once his buffs are flipped. The Eternals flip his buffs with that 500% focus. Someone like Gwenpool flips his buff with Gwenpool's 1000% focus. Someone like Namor is going to flip his buffs, or they're going to be removed ahead of time, and then he's just going to completely melt. So Dorm, I don't think, benefits from stats the same way somebody like Doom does. However, there is a caveat to this. There is a world, and I know all you guys know this, where building Doom works against you, right? Where he's no longer getting pushed where he used to get pushed. So there's going to be a little bit of a learning curve here where we find out, hey, people brought up their Green Goblin to Gear Tier 19. Is Green Goblin killing Doom now instead of pushing him? Or I brought my Doom up to Gear Tier 19 and now Green Goblin isn't pushing him in time. Or whatever the situation where you use Doom and you need him to get pushed, right? So that is going to be kind of a case study we're going to have to sit down and analyze. Because I do think Dorm is just a standing passive. I don't want to put any more gear into Dorm. I don't think he needs it. So I do think I'd prefer to do Doom. He'll do a lot more damage. He'll survive more. He'll kind of hang around the meta more often. And I kind of compare him to like Red Hulk. He activates other good characters. So if I need him to survive to do that, then I want to do that. But yeah, it's kind of going to be a case study. And once we have this, we should look at what we have total, right? So I have 6 bio characters, but I do want to note Pavitra is not a bio character. It shows him as bio, but be warned, he has all skill Crimson Gear. So be careful with that. We only have 3 mutants, but right now, Pandapool, I assume, might be a mutant. I think the next legendary character is going to be a mutant. So with this list, I do think my mutant's actually pretty much in whack. We have 5 Mystic characters, but remember, Doom is kind of a mixed character, so though he's counting as Mystic, it's only kind of a half bag there. And I'm not sure Deathpool is going to come. We're going to see what other Cosmic characters get released in this time window. Skills section. So Pavitra is counting in this 6 number, so keep that in mind. So is Kestrel. Once again, she's kind of a half measure, so it's not the same sort of. So it is actually really well in line. In the tech section, we got 5. This is the section where I actually could add some characters, because we have Iron Patriot, who's a true tech, Kang, who is a true tech, we have Green Goblin, who is a true tech, but then we have Doom and Kestrel, who are both half techs. So I'm hopeful that there's going to be a cosmic tech character, a global tech character from the Panda team, or from the Deadpool team. It's possible, but not likely. Or a tech legendary character, who I think this is more likely to be the case. Not for the next legendary, but for the legendary after that. Anyway, guys, I would want to caution against equipping gear. That is the biggest trap right now, is to go and look at what these guys did in the early sections and start equipping that gear. Definitely don't start equipping Crimson gear to your Vulture or your Big Time Spider-Man or your Hardlight. Just don't equip any Crimson gear unless you're going to be entering that day. But even then, don't build for a team to one-shot these 2 city nodes and then stare at the global section. This is a conversation I have to have every single time there is a Dark Dimension. Don't build to exceed on the Dark Dimension nodes unless you're ready for the next section. And then you still have to do a computation in your head. Okay, I'm ready for 2 sections. If I crush those in a few days, am I still just going to be staring at that 3rd section after that? Because there is a compounding cost when it comes to this Crimson gear as we go, right? Don't build characters that are only good in Dark Dimension if you are an everyday player. That is the long story short. Don't equip Crimson gear until you're ready to go in. And have yourselves a great day. Shout out to Beta Ray Bill for doing such a good job and beating Dark Dimension 7 as quickly as he did. Once again, I hope nobody that I was comparing their characters here is going to take this personally. Once again, what these guys are doing and what they did makes sense for how they play the game. The amount of resources that they get influx and how they are racing through Dark Dimension to get that Mephisto faster so they can kick all of our asses in Arena and in Crucible and probably in War as well. Shout out to them for supporting the game. If you like this video, once again, please give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and stay happy, healthy, have fun. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now. That's it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Stay happy, healthy, have fun, and I'll see you in the next one.